Good afternoon, everybody. Edward Leos here, publisher of the Hotel Guide and host of our Travel Talk podcast. Excited to have my partner in crime and fellow traveler and editor in chief of the Hotel Guide, Jennifer Broome, joining me today. We've got some good segment planned on tap, don't we, Jennifer?
We certainly do. We're talking affordable travel for this spring.
Yep, we're getting to that point. You got spring break coming and going, and people start thinking about, hey, where do I want to go? But one of the big things that's always on their mind is, how can I do it and save a little bit of money and enjoy and enhance the experience? I know we were talking offline a little bit about the importance of what's going on in Florida. Tell me a little bit about what's going on potentially for us to be able to get there for maybe spring or even summer.
Yeah, I think it's one of those destinations that, anytime you hear, how do you do Florida affordably? It's a toughie. I'll just go ahead and say that. It's a place that people want to go. And anytime you have that, the prices are always a little bit higher. But I was delightfully surprised when I did a recent trip to the Jacksonville area. I actually combined an island experience, a little urban exploration, and then of the historical area of Florida. And sometimes I feel like folks forget that there's a tremendous amount of history in Florida. So let me tell you how I did it. I first went to Amelia Island. And because it is an island where there is a huge local year-round population, I actually found it to be a little bit more affordable. Say when you're just going for your dinners and stuff, I didn't feel like the prices were jacked up that you would normally see in a resort area. I also just found that it was a great place to explore the great outdoors. They have an area called Fort Clinch State Park. And it's, if you just want to go walk or bike ride or explore the fort itself, it's super affordable to do that. It is one of the best places I've been recently to catch a sunrise. That's free to do. Just enjoying those things of kind of enjoying the outdoors. I actually stayed at a Residence Inn, another way to kind of get into Florida with that affordable aspect in mind is to stay at some of the well-known brands, but also not only to stay, but then using your points. If you've accumulated points, whether it be through your credit card or you are on business travel a lot and you're, sticking with that one, I tend to try to stick with the brand or 2 or 3 brands to maximize making sure I earn as many points as possible. But that was one way to be affordable. Now I did do a little bit of a splurge and I'll tell you it was worth every single cent. And that was going on a catamaran sailing experience with Follow That Dream Sailing. It's a husband and wife team that take you out and you get to see all the historical sites and Amelia Island from the water, but then also cross the line into Georgia and go to Cumberland Island. And that is a national seashore. You may remember when John F. Kennedy Jr. when he got married there, the Cumberland Island is also known for the wild horses, and we actually saw some. Just kind of a cool thing to do there. And then when you're in Jacksonville, again, kind of thinking about those name brand hotels and again using those points, but I found it incredibly affordable there and was delightfully surprised. There's a place called Caddyshack Ranch that is a wildlife sanctuary, and these are animals that people had as pets. They cannot be, these animals cannot be released into the wild. So this is a place where they can go and live a happy life in a sanctuary. Just a really interesting place to visit. Went to the Arboretum and the gardens. I had no idea there was that kind of oasis in Jacksonville. And then of course, a lot of history. We spent some time at Kingsley Plantation, which is the oldest, the main home is the oldest plantation home still standing in Florida. But I even found it more unique and interesting was the slave cabins. There are 25 slave cabins that are still there. But it is the spot for African-American archaeology, the birthplace of that in the United States, and found it completely fascinating. So it was those kind of surprises where I was like, wait a minute. So part of the way I was doing this affordably was kind of exploring an entire region, not just a single destination. And then, of course, going down into St. Augustine, the oldest city in America, dates back to 1565. We even saw at the GTM Reserve, saw the point, well, out where somewhere in the water where Ponce de Leon spotted La Florida for the first time back in 1513. And I'd been to Castillo de San Marcos before as a child. It's been, 40 plus years since I've done that. So going back and seeing that, that, and then seeing the culinary scene, St. Augustine Distillery, going on a tour there. The bourbon is really good. The food at Bourbon and Boards was fabulous. Catch 27, another delightful place for dinner. And then, something that was just really fun, kind of a, just kind of casual, right on the water type of place was Aunt Kate's, where you can just get, like the fried shrimp, and, I'm a grits girl, so I'm always going to go for the grits, but that, that sort of thing. And we did go out on a dolphin and wildlife adventure with Florida water tours. Again, very affordable. They do things. You go out on a pontoon boat. They do that. They do sunset cruises, kind of unique things like that. But again, looking at an entire region instead of just that one place and staying in one spot the whole time will help save you some money.
No, definitely. When you're traveling, it's, you're seeing those things where you kind of want to adventure out and see a myriad of things there. So I love that you touched on so many different things. You piqued my interest with the catamaran there for sure. I know that's the splurgy part, but it's still, if you save up on the other things, that's an experience in itself. And then obviously with the golden hour, and everything that's going on with sunsets, you can't beat a nice coastal sunset. So
100%. Yeah. You save so you can splurge.
Exactly, which is what we want to talk about a little bit here. I know we got a couple of other topics, but one of the things is, I know you're very big into the park system, the national park system, and being very active. I love that about you. I'm the same way when it comes to being outdoors and experiencing travel in that respect. So let's talk about some of the national parks that you could maybe partake in over the spring and summertime.
Well, I'm going to give you the one. I'm going to stick it to one because I could talk about national parks and we're going to be here for 5 hours. So we're going to keep it to one. And it is the one that something very unusual is happening. And that's kind of my tip for here is see something unusual. And it's Death Valley. Because of Hillary, Tropical Storm Hillary last August, when it hit California, that produced heavy rains, that recreated Lake Manly and Badwater Basin. Badwater Basin is that iconic spot of the Salt Flats in Death Valley National Park that's 282 feet below sea level. It's normally bone dry. Right now, there's a lake. It's called Lake Manly, named after the ancient lake that used to be there. So because of all of the recent rains and recent snowstorms that have been happening in California, it's just been replenishing that water there. People are kayaking. It's several feet deep in some spots. So you want to go this spring. And the bonus is because of all the rain, the super bloom that a lot of folks do travel to California to see, should likely peak as we get into, say, April. It's going to be an epic super bloom season in Death Valley. So you want to get there before it gets too hot. It's also in spring, a better time to visit, unless you just really need to go feel 130 degrees, which I don't really, the meteorologist in me really does not advise that. But I also understand that, some people would like to go experience that. But, it's just such a unique thing to see in a national park. Now, to do it affordably, I did stay in the park. I did not find that to be the most affordable option. I have also stayed outside of the park. I stayed in Baker, Nevada. It is really close to the Rhyolite Ghost Town, which is a really cool stop. You can also stay in Pahrump in Nevada. That's another area where you can save. And then down south, just south of Death Valley, is Shoshone Valley. Stayed there, just roadside motel, just kind of a cool, really quirky small town. And they have hot springs there. So that's something to put on your list. Yeah. So kind of think in terms, I guess a good tip for when you're also looking for other national parks, look at the small towns, not necessarily the main small town. Like if you're looking at Zion, Springdale is the main small town that folks stay in. Look at some of the others.
Got it. Well, those are some great tips, and I didn't know that about the lake and everything that's there happening now too. So another reason to get out there for sure. We got another big thing coming up, April 8th. Oh man, we've been talking about this. We touched on this a couple of episodes ago on our podcast. I know you've been preaching about this for a while now, but it's the big eclipse.
It really is. Yeah.
It's just big. Tell us a little bit about some of the places you think we should be at.
Oh gosh. This is, I'm always going to say San Antonio for this, but partly because it is one of the first places in the U.S. to get the view of the total solar eclipse that's happening on April 8th. It is such a spectacular experience. I saw the one that passed through back in, 2017. Okay. And happened to go across my hometown of Greenville, South Carolina. So it's something not to miss. And there is this whole like eclipse buzz, the annular eclipse that we had back in October. This total solar eclipse. I mean, people are coming and flocking to these areas, ranging from San Antonio and Austin up to Dallas, taking it into Hot Springs National Park there in Arkansas, taking it into Cuyahoga National Park in Ohio, right there in Cleveland, and then going on to Lake Placid in New York. There are just so many areas. And I think a lot of folks are like, well, how can I still do it affordably? If you have not bought your plane ticket, if you do have to fly to see it, you need to do so ASAP, because the seats are getting less and less and less. If you missed it, you might want to think about flying into, say, a secondary airport. For example, Dallas and Austin, San Antonio, all of those are in the path. Houston is not. Midland is not. El Paso is not. So maybe you want to think about flying into one of those airports and doing the drive. It will mean renting a car and doing a drive, but it will save you on the price for the flights. And then if you're road tripping, you got plenty of options. And even last minute, there are people that do go and book multiple hotel rooms in multiple places because they're trying to figure out their best spot. So there's going to be, even right before, some hotel availability. Then you can always look at things like campgrounds. Those are starting to go, but you can, look at campgrounds, and I just think it's so cool. It's one of those times, where everybody can just get together and actually talk about something good and talk about something interesting, and not bad news, not political news, not, and just, kind of look and have that moment of awe as we look into that final frontier up into space and watch that solar, total solar eclipse. It is. You will have a moment, it's just, you're going to have some type of almost like spiritual moment during it.
No, I've been seeing that all over. And I mean, the fact that we're obviously based in San Antonio, so we're fortunate to be able to be in that path, but it's all over the place. I mean, there's a lot of communities that are expecting a big economic push from this who are in the path. And so really exciting times. And like you said, it's from a cerebral moment, from the opportunity to combine something like that with hospitality and tourism. I think it's really kind of what we're about, is those experiences and those moments. So it's really, really something that really sets us apart. So as we're winding up, we got a few minutes here, but I know we were talking a little bit offline too about what if you still want to get some snow? And we talked a little bit about Colorado. So why don't you touch on that and tell us what your thoughts are on some affordable ideas there? Because I know it's not always affordable.
The reality is skiing and riding is expensive. Any way you look at it, from the lift tickets to the gear to finding a place to stay. It is a trip that you have to plan for. But there are some ways that you can do it a little bit more affordably. And that is kind of thinking in terms of maybe not necessarily staying in a resort or in a destination that has the ski resort in it. Think a little bit outside and go for those smaller towns. I'm such a huge proponent of visiting our smaller towns. Get that Americana, get that small town feel, partly because you are on vacation, and a smaller town is a slower place, a slower pace in life. It's going to automatically make you just take that deep breath and chill it down a couple of notches. So one that I really, really like, that's kind of recently turned into, and I'm about to share it, my little go-to recently for when I need a little R&R, or I'm doing kind of a writing work retreat, but also want to get some wellness in. And that's Glenwood Springs, Colorado. It is absolutely gorgeous there. It is known for its hot springs. Iron Mountain Hot Springs is one of my favorites there. So you get that built in, but it is a short drive to Beaver Creek, Vail, Aspen Snowmass. And then there's a smaller resort that's only about 20-25 minutes from downtown Glenwood Springs called Sunlight, which is great if you're coming in and your kids are wanting to learn. It's a fabulous area to do that. And it's a little bit cheaper, so you can save some money there. But kind of thinking about look at the ski area and then say, okay, maybe let me branch out just a little bit and see what's within 30 miles or so from that ski area that I can find something. And with Glenwood Springs, you get that the soaking experience with Iron Mountain Hot Springs, and the Glenwood Caverns were just recently named a national natural landmark.
Wow.
So there's kind of that geology aspect to it. Hanging Lake is one of the most iconic hikes in Colorado. It's right there. In the wintertime, you do need spikes on. You also need trekking poles for it. But that is something you can do in the wintertime without the crowds. It is permit only now. You do have to have that year round. So Glenwood Springs is also a really hot summer destination, just because it is such a cool place. It's so family friendly. They do have the amusement park up on top on the mountain there, which is great fun in the summertime. In the wintertime, going into the caverns as well. It just kind of gives you those extra après experiences and some different things, and saves you a little bit of money. If you're going to stay, they are strongly suggesting at Hotel Colorado. It is Teddy Roosevelt stayed multiple times, and legend has it it's where the teddy bear came from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's got a ton of history. And Unsinkable Molly Brown from the Titanic was also a frequent guest there. I've stayed in the Molly Brown suite. You get this phenomenal view of Glenwood Springs. So there's ways to do it affordably, but then if you want to take it up and add in the luxury, you can certainly do that there too.
Wow. So we're ending up this podcast, and man, do we have some great tips from you, Jennifer, with regards to affordable travel. And we covered it all, I think. I think we took away, being able to go see some of the small cities that are around some of the big places, destinations, looking at regional travel as well. Find a good spot for the eclipse. And then, talking about the snow side for Colorado. So as always, thank you for being on the Travel Talk podcast. We're excited to be having this shared with our readers and our listeners, and a lot of good content today. So thank you so much for being on the show again. And for everybody else out there, please like, share, comment, pass this along to your friends, because that's how we're getting the word out there about the hotelguide.com and our Travel Talk podcast. And until next time, travel and make memories. Everybody take care.